Imagine you are holding an ancient, dusty book. As you flip through the pages, you notice that some chapters are written in a strange, flowery language that seems too fancy for the simple story it tells. Then, in the back of the book, you find hundreds of pages that are completely blank or filled with scrambled letters that make no sense. Why would anyone keep those useless pages? Our world is full of these odd extras. We see them in the way we speak, and we see them in the designs of the creatures around us. There is a deep, mysterious connection between the words that leave our mouths and the genes that build our bodies. Both are like ancient travelers carrying heavy bags filled with items they no longer need, yet they refuse to throw anything away. This shared habit of holding on to the past tells us something profound about how life and culture actually work. We are not just looking at a simple plan for survival or communication. We are looking at a beautiful, chaotic process of leftovers and luxury. This journey into the parallels between nature and language happens in a world where we often expect everything to have a perfect reason. We like to think that every part of a bird exists to help it fly and every word in a sentence exists to make the meaning clear. However, when you look closer, you see that both systems are incredibly messy. We are living in an era where we can finally map the entire human genome and trace the history of languages back thousands of years. This allows us to see the junk and the excess that were hidden before. We are discovering that evolution is not a neat architect, it is more like a gardener who never throws away a dead plant, letting new flowers grow right on top of the old ones. On the surface, we see a concept of extravagance. Think about the peacock. Its tail is a massive, heavy, and bright display that actually makes it harder for the bird to hide from predators or fly away quickly. On the surface, this looks like a mistake. Why would nature allow something so impractical? Similarly, in English, we have many ways to talk about the future. We say I will, I am going to, or I shall. We don't actually need all these options to understand each other. If you say I buy socks tomorrow, the meaning is perfectly clear. But we use these extra layers anyway. This surface extravagance is like poetry in motion. It is a form of overkill where both nature and language do much more than is strictly necessary to get the job done. It is not just about survival, it is about display and style. Beneath this surface lies a hidden assumption. We often assume that if something exists in a living creature or a language, it must be useful. We think everything must have a job. But this is not always true. In our DNA, we have what scientists call pseudogenes. These are like broken tools or fossils. For example, humans still have the genes for a superpowered sense of smell, like a dog or a bear. But these genes are switched off. They are just sitting there, being dragged along through time like tin cans tied to the back of a wedding car. In language, we have suffixes like the lu in dribble or sparkle. This once meant a repeating action, but today, we can't use it to make new words. It is a dead vestige. The hidden assumption that existence equals purpose is wrong. Much of what we carry is simply historical baggage that hasn't been deleted yet. This leads us to a fascinating structural pattern known as differentiation. When two groups are very similar but live near each other, they often go out of their way to sound or look different just to avoid being confused. There are two species of frogs in North America that sound almost the same when they live far apart. But in the areas where they live together, their calls change. One gets higher and the other gets lower. They exaggerate their differences so they don't accidentally mate with the wrong group. We see this exact same pattern in human speech. If you go to a place where people speak a dialect very similar to yours, you might find yourself exaggerating your own accent to show you belong to your own group. It is a structural social identification that forces creatures and speakers to push away from each other to maintain their unique identity. We can reframe this entire process by looking at it through the lens of drift versus selection. Selection is the force that builds better wings or clearer words to help us survive. It is the interesting part of the story. But drift is the random, quiet background noise. Drift is like changing the font on a document from one style to another. The meaning stays the same, but the look changes. Most language change is actually just random drift. We didn't change the way we say made because it helped us survive, it just happened over centuries, and nobody noticed until it was done. By reframing evolution as a mix of deliberate betterment and random drifting, we see that life is a balance between being a high-performance machine and a collection of random coincidences. In our daily lives, we can apply this by realizing that we are all hybrids. Just as there is no such thing as a pure ancestor for a language, there is no such thing as a pure culture. We are all mixtures of different influences, words, and genes. When we use a new word like Wordle, we are actually recycling ancient parts of language to make something new. We are constantly cutting and pasting from the past to build the present. We should stop worrying about things being correct or pure and embrace the messiness. Your habits, your accent, and even your physical traits are a mixture of things that helped your ancestors survive and random things that just happened to get dragged along for the ride. If we look even deeper, we see that nature and language both struggle with the same problem: how to stay clear while also changing. A language might lose a sound, making words harder to tell apart, while a creature might lose a trait that was once helpful. But somehow, we adapt. We use context to understand can versus can't, and creatures find new ways to thrive. This constant shifting is what makes life and communication so vibrant. We are not static statues, we are flowing rivers of information. We are part of a massive, ongoing experiment that has been running for millions of years, and we are still adding new pages to the book every single day. As we think about these deep connections, we realize that the way we talk and the way we grow are essentially the same story told in different ways. We are the products of biology envy and linguistic drift. We are carrying the ghosts of ancient shrews and the echoes of Germanic tribes in our very cells and sentences. This realization brings a sense of wonder to the mundane things we do, like speaking a sentence or smelling a flower. We are walking museums of everything that came before us, and every useless part of us is a witness to a story that refused to be forgotten. If you could turn back on one of the ancient, silent genes hidden in your DNA, like the ability to smell thousands of exotic scents or see colors no human has ever seen, would you want to experience that hidden world, even if it made the modern world feel too loud and overwhelming?